using a new camera at my office. If you go down to the video, where you choose the virtual background, one of the backgrounds is blur, and it will just blur whatever is behind you.
Oh, good to know.
Okay, great. And the latest IT session is over, and the Planning Commission meeting will commence. And I'd like to welcome everyone, and welcome to the City of Milpitas Planning Commission on August 11th, 2021. And as a public service announcement, I'd like to just make note to anyone who members of the public who wish to address the Planning Commission during a public forum, as well as to one or both of the public hearing item this evening. The ways and pathways to join the meeting is on the link appearing on tonight's agenda at the very top. So you are welcome to join in and via the City of Milpitas link thereof. So calling the meeting to order, and the next agenda item here is a Pledge of Allegiance. Will Commissioner Albana lead us in the pledge? Commissioner Albana, if you will lead us in the pledge.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's all stand. The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Albana, and all the participants. And the next agenda item here is roll call. Will the Commissioner Secretary conduct the roll call, please?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. I'll now take attendance. Commissioner Albana.
Present.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Here.
Commissioner Belong.
Present.
Vice Chair Chuan.
Present.
Commissioner Ciardella.
Present.
Commissioner Galong.
Present.
And Chair Tao.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. And the next agenda item here is conflict of interest declaration. Will City Attorney poll the commissioners, please?
I ask whether any of the commissioners have a financial or personal conflict of interest on any of the items before you tonight. I'll start with Commissioner Galang.
No.
Commissioner Ciardella.
No.
Commissioner Albana.
No.
Commissioner Belong.
None.
Commissioner Alcorn.
None.
Vice Chair Chuan.
None.
And Chair Tao.
Mr. City Attorney, I'd like to declare conflict on the second public hearing item this evening. That's for the Stratfor School project. Chair has acted on behalf of one of the tenants for the property that which Chair has received compensation from the property owner within the last 12 months. And so Chair would like to recuse, and at that point of the agenda, Chair will hand the meeting over to the Vice Chair to conduct the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we're noting on the record Chair Tao's statement, and that he will be recusing himself from public hearing item number 2 on tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. We appreciate your polling the commissioners. And the next agenda item here is the approval of the agenda. Staff, any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And commissioners, any changes to tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none. And may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for August 11th, 2021.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Okay, I have a motion by Vice Chair Chuan and a second by Commissioner Ciardella. And I'll go down the line for commissioners' votes. Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Commissioner Galan.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Ciardella.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Belong.
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Aye.
Vice Chair Chuan.
Aye.
Chair, I as well. Motion carries 7-0. Proof for the approval of the agenda. And the next meeting agenda item here is the approval of the minutes. And the staff, any changes to the meeting minutes for June 30th of 2021?
None.
Director Thomas, any changes to the meeting minutes of June 30th?
No changes to the minutes tonight.
Thank you. Commissioners, any changes to the June 30th meeting minutes? Okay, seeing none. And can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Belong. I believe the meeting, the motion is to approve the meeting minutes for June 30th, 2021.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Belong and a second by Commissioner Albana. And I'll go down for the vote call. And Commissioner Albana?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Galan?
Aye.
Commissioner Sardella?
Aye.
Commissioner Belong?
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn?
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Chair Chuang?
Aye.
Chair, I as well. Motion carries 7-0, approved. And the next agenda item here is the announcements. Planning commissioners, any announcements? I'll start with Vice Chair Chuang. Any announcements?
No announcements on my
Thank
end.
you. Commissioner Alcorn?
I'll announce that I met with the Stratfor applicants on Monday over Zoom.
Thank you. And Commissioner Belong?
Yes. I met from Stratford last Monday around 1:30 by Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Galan. And Vice Chair Chuan, you have raised your hand.
Yes, I also wanted to mention that I did meet with Stratford as well this week. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Belong,
None.
any announcements?
None.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Sardella?
Yes, I also met with the Stratford folks. Believe it was last week. It might have been this week. So I did meet with them.
Okay, thank you for the announcement. And the chair has no announcements. And planning director, any announcements, please?
Oh, before I begin, it looks like Commissioner Albana may have something that she wants to share.
I'm sorry, my apologies, Commissioner Albana.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I also had a Zoom meeting with Stratford, and that was last Monday. And also, I was also wanting to say that I was very happy with the turnout of the National Night Out with different neighborhoods. So I just wanted to thank also that opportunity that the city gave us to at least together with the neighborhoods for the National Night Out.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Albana, and apologize, I inadvertently skipped over you.
That's
so,
fine.
Well,
No worries.
apologies accepted, thank you. And planning director?
Yes, thank you. I have a few announcements. Before I do, I just wanted to thank those of you who did have meetings with any of the applicants for sending your just a quick email by way of reminder to Liz, and she'll update your online calendar accordingly. So a couple of announcements. Just a reminder that we have the California State Planning Conference coming up in September. It will be a virtual conference again this year, so very easy to attend and a reduced cost. It's September 13th through the 15th. If we, there is a special rate for planning commissioners if we register you before the end of this month, then it's a little bit cheaper. So if you're interested in going, please let Liz know and she'll take care of your registration for you. The city covers the cost. And I do understand that this year there's a couple of special events and sessions specifically for planning commissioners. So happy to point you toward those if you're interested. And so just wanted, yeah, again, this week or next week, if you're interested in participating or some or all of that conference, again, let Liz know and she can take care of your registration. I also wanted to give you an update from last week's city council meeting. It was a special city council meeting held on Thursday because of National Night Out, as Commissioner Albana pointed out, what was held on Tuesday. And the two items that you heard at your last meeting on June 30th were heard by the council and both were approved. By way of reminder, the first item was a text amendment to the ADU ordinance. It's some relatively minor updates to bring our local ordinance into consistency with recent changes to state law. And then the other item, which was of interest, was the 100% affordable project on 308 Sango Court. This, of course, is in the metro area or the transit area, 85 units. And I wanted to let you know, especially that based on the recommendation from the commission and some of the discussion that we had at the commission meeting around reduced parking, which was allowed in this case because of the state density bonus law. There were a few changes and a couple of conditions that were added to the resolution for council approval. And again, I just wanted to recognize your good work in making that recommendation to the council and those changes. So really quickly, one of the changes was that once the building is completed and occupied, within 6 months, there will be a traffic study, a parking study completed. And if it's shown that additional parking is needed, the developer agreed to make the building stacker ready, we'll call it. So they'll make the garage with enough clearance and they'll put in all the electrical and other infrastructure that will support mechanical car stackers if they're needed. And by doing that, they estimate that they could get an additional 26 parking spaces in that building without making any changes to the site plan other than adding the mechanical stackers. And hopefully, we'll see how things turn out. That was a creative solution. Another condition was added that the operator of the affordable units will provide or make available to both residents and employees at the building transit passes. And we're aware that VTA has a program to provide subsidized transit passes to low-income families and households. So that's just a nice partnership that the city can help facilitate. The city council also added a condition requiring the developer, the operator of the housing complex, to, once the building is completed, to put together a marketing plan that's specifically targeted to Milpitas residents. And they may look at teachers or other types of employment as well, but specifically for Milpitas residents. And they'll be submitting that to the city for review and approval as well. In addition, the city council did not accept the applicant's request to waive a portion or all of the public art fee. The council was quite clear that they wanted to collect the entire fee and that was important for the neighborhood. But the council did agree to defer the payment of impact fees from, usually the impact fees in the transit area are paid when the developer applies for a building permit. So we get the payment up front, but in this case, they deferred them into a certificate of occupancy. And that allows a little bit of savings to the developer because they're able to attach the impact fees, which run into the millions of dollars in this case, rather than applying that to their short-term construction loan, they can add it to their longer-term mortgage once the building is completed. So there's some savings there for the developer. Anyway, great work. And again, I just wanted to acknowledge that the conversation that we had at the Planning Commission level and the comments that we received from the public were responded to. And I think we came up with the best possible solution to hopefully avoid parking issues down the road. No pun intended.
Well,
thank you.
None taken, Director Thomas. Thank you very much for your update. And also, if you can also update the Planning Commission with regards to the City Hall reopening, as well as the projected time frame for in-person meeting, if there's such such planned event at this point?
Sure. So employees have started returning one or 2 days per week to City Hall. City Hall is still closed to the public, but employees are here, and we're getting reacclimated to our surroundings and getting used to some changes that have been made. That's last week and this week. Starting next week, City Hall will continue to be closed through the end of August, but we will be taking appointments if someone needs to come in for, say, a building permit or some type of planning permit. If they call ahead, we can make an appointment for them, and they would come in to the building. The plan is still that the building will be open to the public in September. However, I will note that the situation is a little bit fluid just because of the issues that we're having with the Delta variant and the numbers going up. And so, we leave it open that if changes are made at the county level or at the state level, then the city, of course, will respond to those. But again, the plan is to be reopened during the first week of September. So as far as our meetings, the council has begun having hybrid meetings. So the council is in the chambers, and for a few special events, they'll have members of the public come into the chambers. But for the most part, it's just the council in the chambers. However, people are able to call into the meeting, and there's been a lot of new equipment installed in the chambers. So it's working out quite well. Of course, the Planning Commission meets in the chambers, and we hope that the time will come that we'll be able to have those same kind of hybrid meetings. There is we're still adjusting, and there's a little bit more staff involvement behind the scenes to make all of the call in and that work. So I expect that we will begin meeting in the chambers relatively soon, but a date hasn't been set. And again, some of that is related to just watching what's happening with the COVID-19 and the numbers. If we see numbers improving, then I think we'll feel a little bit more comfortable about having everybody together and in close quarters with one another. But for the time being, we'll continue to have our meetings in a virtual format.
So, Director Thomas, if upon return, will the binders be a regular feature, or are we doing our personal tablets in that respect?
I was thinking about that earlier this week, and I have not. Maybe we can talk offline about that, and I'll speak with our coordinator, with Liz, our recording secretary, to see about getting those binders put together. Has it worked well? From a sustainability point of view, it's a little bit better not to use so much paper, but I don't know if there are commissioners who prefer to have hard copies of the binders. We can consider that too. Is that what you were? Did I understand your question correctly?
Yes, that's correct in part. And also, in the past, I've used the tablet, in the chamber to try to call up the documents. I think the experience is somewhat clunky and extraordinarily slow. So if we're relying on electronic devices to receive, I think we probably need to boost our capacity and speed so that we can, somewhat near the real time, be able to call the documents up. And also I think, between the meeting agenda as well as the supporting documents, pretty much it's a two devices experience. So we want to go ahead and take those into consideration, how we handle the sort of hybrid or the future format. But the chambers, the speed in the chamber definitely is somewhat lacking for documents, and especially documents with graphic natures.
Yeah, I understood. I'll speak with the city manager's office as well as our IT director and see what the capabilities are. They may have boosted capabilities in the chambers with the new equipment that's been installed to facilitate the hybrid meetings. And then we can see what can be done there. I think it's a good idea. If it's more convenient for the members of the commission, we can certainly look into that.
Thank you, Director Thomas. We appreciate it. And staff, any other comments from commissioners? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to the next meeting agenda item. It's a public forum. Those interested are invited to address Planning Commission on any subject not on tonight's agenda, orally via Zoom webinar, instructions above. Speakers may provide their name and city of residence for the recording secretary's record, and comments may be limited to 3 minutes or less. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required from city staff or the Planning Commission, and no action can be taken. Planning Commission may instruct the staff to place the item on a future meeting agenda. So Ms. Medina, do we have any members of the public in queue?
Chair, at this time, we do not have any members of the public in the queue for public forum.
Thank you, and we appreciate your comment. And so moving on to the next meeting item is the public hearing. And the first item is a time extension for permit 1490 South Park Victoria Drive. And the planning director, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have our associate planner, Avery Stark. I'll note that he will become an associate planner on Monday. He was recently promoted, and we want to congratulate him. We have our associate planner, Avery Stark, here tonight to present the first item. As noted in your agenda, it's a time extension for permits that were previously approved for the Chevron station located at 1490 South Victoria Drive. There are 3 permits involved: conditional use permit, and a permit amendment, and then a minor site development amendment. And the Avery will give the details. And then we have, we're both here to answer any questions you may have. And I also wanted to note, with, should have noted this earlier, with the departure of our planning manager, for each planning commission meeting, I will have one of the senior planners here also to help. And for tonight's meeting, we have our senior planner, Michael Facade, here to also help answer questions.
Thank you, Director Thomas. And welcome, Avery, and congratulations.
Chair. Thank you, Director Thomas. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. As mentioned, the item before you is a time extension for the redevelopment of a Chevron gas station. Next. The application is a one-time request for a 24-month time extension for conditional use permit number UP 18-0013, conditional use permit amendment number UA 18-0016, and minor site development permit number MS 18-0205 to allow the sale of alcohol beverages, beer and wine for off-site consumption, and the expansion of a convenience store into the existing automobile repair area, which include interior and exterior tenant improvements and associated site improvements. The project site currently is developed as a Chevron gas station built in the 1970s. The roughly 2,112 square foot building includes a 1,600 square foot auto repair shop and a roughly 500 square foot convenience store. On May of 2019, the planning department approved the minor site development permit to expand the existing convenience store into the area occupied by the auto repair shop, and a conditional use permit amendment to a minor site development permit to allow a slight relocation of the primary monument sign shown on sheet SP2 of your plan set from the previously approved location. Additionally, in June of 2019, the Planning Commission adopted Resolution 19017, approving a conditional use permit to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer and wine for off-sale consumption from the convenience store area of the existing gas station. The applicant applied for the time extension before the project's expiration date allowed for the Milpitas Municipal Code. And if approved, the applicant would be able to move forward with the required permits to expand the convenience store into the existing auto repair area, update the monument sign, and continue to process and to eventually sell alcohol beverages, beer and wine for off-site consumption. The time extension would establish a new expiration date of August 11, 2023, and the applicant would need to start work on the construction project and obtain the required permits from the California State Alcohol and Beverage Control Department to maintain validity of the permits. There will be no changes to the previously approved 3 entitlements as a part of this application and request for a 24-month time extension. Next. Here we see a satellite view of 1490 South Park Victoria Drive as outlined in red. The site is located at the northeast corner of Landis Avenue and South Park Victoria Road in the southern border of Milpitas. Next. The map above demonstrates the project zoning designation. The project is located in the general commercial C2 zone and has a general plan designation of neighborhood commercial mixed use, or NCMU. Next. The planning department approval of the application for a minor site development permit for facade modifications to the existing gas station included the following: an expansion of the convenience store area by removing auto repair garages with no changes to the building footprint, removing and replacing the trash enclosure, creating additional parking on site, replacing 2 of the driveways with sidewalk, curb and gutters per city standard, and adding new landscaping with 6-inch curbs. Additionally, the new building and canopy signs and various landscape improvements will be completed as a part of that minor site development permit. Additionally, staff approved the conditional use permit amendment to allow the slight relocation of the primary monument sign as indicated on the front or bottom left-hand corner of the image. The sign will be moved back just about 2 feet from its original location. Next. The proposed exterior alterations serve to modernize the building and site by streamlining the building design and aesthetic with earth tones and subtle accent materials, such as the stone veneer around the base of the building to create visual interest. The new trash enclosure will mimic the colors and materials of the convenience store. The convenience store square footage will increase because the applicant is proposing to remove the existing garage bays and expand that area, but no changes to the existing building's footprint will be made. Next. In June of 2019, the Planning Commission had adopted a resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages from the convenience store. The proposed hours of sale, as a reminder, and just for anyone who was maybe not serving on the Planning Commission at that time, are from beer and wine are from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday, and the existing gas station and convenience store will be open 24 hours. And for some background, again, the use permit and outlined in the staff report, as according to the ABC, the project site does fall within an area of undue concentration of off-sale license, and as relevant census tract area is only authorized for 1 off-sale license. And currently there are 3 off-sale licenses within that census tract. In order for the ABC to grant the pending license type 20, the applicant will have to demonstrate that the ABC in a public convenience or necessity would be served by the issuance of their license type 20. So the applicant has a upcoming hearing with the ABC board for that license and for its extension of time as well. So the city does authorize the alcoholic beverage sales and is separate and apart from that ABC licensing process. I believe, yes, that's it. Thank you. Next. A notice was published in the Milpitas Post, and 2 signs were placed on the property's borders. Postcards were sent to 311 residents and landlords within 1,000 feet of the project site. To date, no comments have been received via phone call or email. Next. Staff has found that the project is exempt from further CEQA per sections 15301 and 15301 and 15183 of the CEQA guidelines. Next. Pursuant to the Milpitas Municipal Code, an extension of approval of a project may be granted if the current findings for the specific type of permit can be made by the decision-making authority. In this case, the applicant proposes no changes to the previously approved use, and the proposed project substantially complies with the previously approved entitlements. Thus, the factual basis for the required findings for the conditional use permit amendment, and minor site development permit can be made with no modifications, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the requested time extension. Next. Again, staff recommends that the Planning Commission open and close the public hearing and adopt Resolution 21-019, approving time extension request TE 21-003, a one-time 24-month extension for conditional use permit number UP 18-0013, conditional use permit amendment UA 18-0016, and minor site development permit number MS 18-0250, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. This concludes the staff summary of the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may all have.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. And is the applicant have a presentation for the commission?
The applicant is present but does not have a presentation for the commission, as it is just a extension of time.
Absolutely, thank you. And commissioners, any questions for Mr. Stark? And I'll go ahead and start with Vice Chair Chuan. Any questions for Mr. Stark?
No questions at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Alcorn?
No questions.
Thank you. And Commissioner Belong?
None.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Ciradella?
Yeah, I've got one question. What happens if the alcohol and beverage control people don't want to approve this project? Does it come back to us since we're not having the alcohol and beer?
So because the vested right of the conditional use permit for alcohol sales of a type 20 license would expire in 24 months, if they were unfortunately not able to seek approval of the ABC board, that part of the scope of their convenience store would simply be removed. So it may require a tenant improvement change to a floor plan to remove maybe some number of the coolers or storage. But if there were to be any exterior modification changes as it relates to the not having the sale of alcohol, again, another minor site development permit amendment would be required in order to make those modifications. But it would not inherently come back to the Planning Commission for review if for some reason it was denied.
Okay. And then, my second question, and I should have noticed that before for you, is the beer and wine located in the back of the store or in the front of the store, or do you know where it's going to be located?
It would be, and the applicant, correct me if I've misinterpreted or if the plan for storage is different, but they're in the upper top of the site plan. You see the bays of coolers there and the storage behind it. That would be the relative location of the storage of that alcohol, beer and wine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's in relation to where the cash register is. That would be considered the back of the store. And those are also lockable cooler doors that get locked after we're allowed to sell. Sorry, this is Sergio Linares, Senior Project Manager for CBRE representing Chevron. Probably should have said that first.
That's okay, Mr. Linares. Welcome and recognized. And Commissioner Ciradella, hope Mr. Linares' comments answer your question.
Yep, sure did. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from you, from Commissioner Ciradella?
None.
Okay, thank you. And can I have a Commissioner Galan questions?
Yes, I have a question to Mr. Stark. Is there any public restroom available inside the convenience store?
There are 2 restrooms available inside the grocery store, but whether or not they are open to the public would be to the decision of Chevron, as they're the private owner and operator of this gas station.
How about on the existing gas station restroom? Are you going to keep that, or?
So with the remodel and tenant improvements, those the existing bathrooms would be redesigned and rebuilt. So if there are existing, they may be in the same proximity because that current section of the building is the garage bays, but they will be building two new bathrooms as a part of their tenant improvement.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and Commissioner Albano.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe I would like to direct this to Mr. Linares. When are you proposing to apply for the building permit?
I actually have my schedule here in front of me. I think we're planning on submitting that around October, November, once we complete the construction drawings, which would then take us to a construction completion and opening of the new improvements in December of 2022. Or better if we can get permits sooner.
Sooner. Thank you so much. That's all.
Okay, well, Mr. Linares, your comments is heard by city staff, but we appreciate everyone working together going forward. Chair has one question for Mr. Stark. In terms of the extension, this is a one-time only deal, right?
The municipal code only allows for one extension of time.
Okay, and Mr. Linares, based on your comments, I assume that there's a little bit of expeditious processing at this point. Now we're in the extension period.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, everybody was affected by the pandemic, and that's what caused some of our projects to be delayed, and some others got canceled with new capital budgets that came out as a result of the pandemic. So we're eager to move forward with this project here.
Okay, and this particular project concept is sort of the current standards for Chevron on the C-store combo going forward. Is that correct?
Yes, it's per Chevron's current standards, and just to clue everybody in, this is a corporate-owned location, corporate-owned and operated location. So it's all, you're going to get the best of the best from Chevron at this site here.
Thank you.
And just to answer that one question earlier about the restrooms, yes, they are public restrooms.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Linares. And commissioners, any other questions for either staff or the applicant? Okay. Seeing none, this agenda item here being a public hearing item, and Chair would like to go ahead and open to the public hearing process. And Commission Secretary, do we have any members of the public in queue desiring to speak on the item?
Hi, Chair. At this time, we do not have any public members for this item in the queue for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I have a motion to close the public hearing portion of the agenda?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. And so we have a motion by Commissioner Alcorn and a second by Commissioner Ballon to close the public hearing. And the chair will go down the line for the vote. Commissioner Albano.
Aye.
Commissioner Gallant.
Aye.
Commissioner Ciradella.
Aye.
Commissioner Ballon.
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn. I hear aye. Is that correct? Thank you. And Vice Chair Chuan.
Aye.
Chair, aye as well. Public hearing is hearing closed. And so, commissioners, comments, discussions, thoughts, and/or motions.
Chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Chair,
Yes. Since I see that there's no any proposed changes or modification, and they're just needing an extension, I feel we should. I should maybe do a motion to approve.
well, the floor is yours, Commissioner Albana.
Yeah, since it's been consistent also with the community planning and zoning, exempt from the CEQA. Where do I read that now? Hold on here. Let me see.
Will be on the staff report in the recommendation section, or we can go flip to the, there you go. The resolution numbers and on the screen, please.
Wait, I got lost. Where's it? Okay. I'd like to do a motion to adopt resolution number 21-019, approving the time extension request PE 21-003 to allow extension of time for the conditional use permit number UP 18-0013, and also conditional use permit amendment number UA 18-0016, and the minor site development permit number MS 18-0205, subject to the findings and conditions of approval.
Second.
Okay, and thank you, commissioners. And Commissioner Albana, I just wanted to confirm one thing in the reading of the items here. The time extension is a -0003. Is that correct? That's as intended in your motion?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, all right, great. And
Yes.
just want to do a clarification. So we have a motion on the floor.
Clarify.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Albana and the second by Commissioner Alcorn. And I'd like to go down the line for the vote. And so we'll start with Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Galan.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Saradella.
Aye.
Commissioner Bilong.
Aye.
Vice Chair Chuan.
Aye.
Chair Taos, aye as well. Motion approved 7-0. And Mr. Linares.
I'm aye too, in case you're wondering.
Commissioner Alcorn, my apologies. I'm good at skipping today, so and I hope you accept my apologies on that.
No, I don't. I'm just kidding.
Well, thank you. And regardless, we have a 6-0 or 7-0. So and now we have 7-0. We appreciate your comments. And Mr. Linares, and wish you all the best and going forward and get this done and sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, and then we're moving on to the next agenda item here. And at this point in time, at this point in time, Chair, I'd like to go ahead and hand the rest of the meeting off to Vice Chair Chuan to handle as chairs in the recusal mode. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chair Tao. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Stratfor School at 125 North Milpitas Boulevard. Planning Director.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chuan. So this is a request for a conditional use permit and a site development permit for the operation of a new private school. It's a preschool and elementary school operated by Stratfor Schools, located at 125 North Milpitas Boulevard, which is the former OSH site. It's across the street or kitty corner from City Hall. And we have our other associate planner, Lillian Van Hoa, here tonight to present the staff report. And we also have a number of staff from other departments, namely economic development, fire, and transportation engineering here to help answer any questions or to help resolve any issues after the presentation of the staff report. So I'll turn the time over to Lillian.
Thank you, Planning Director. Go ahead, Ms. Van Hoa.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chuan and Director Thomas. Again, my name is Lillian Van Hoa, Associate Planner with the City of Milpitas Planning Department. The item before you this evening is a conditional use permit to allow a new private preschool and early elementary school known as Stratfor School, and a minor site development permit to allow the exterior alterations to an existing commercial building. Next slide, please. To restate the application scope in greater detail, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a new 44,088 square foot private preschool and early elementary school known as the Stratford School, and a minor site development permit to allow exterior modifications to an existing building, new wrought iron fencing, modifications to existing fencing, and other site improvements on a 5.5 acre lot located in the TC Town Center zoning district at 125 North Milpitas Boulevard. A private school use is considered a conditionally permitted use in the town center zone, and the scope of the exterior facade improvements and changes to the fencing necessitates a minor site development permit subject to discretionary review. The proposed action also includes an environmental assessment in a form of an adoption of a mitigated negative declaration supported by an initial study in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. Next slide, please. So to get you familiar with the site, this is a satellite view of the project site at 125 North Milpitas Boulevard. It's outlined in blue on the screen. Next slide, please. And here's a photograph of the existing building on the site. The building is currently vacant since the former occupants, Orchard Supply Hardware, announced bankruptcy and moved out of the space in November 2018. Next. The general plan and zoning ordinance designates the site as town center, where a private elementary school use is conditionally permitted. The surrounding properties are 1 and 2 family residential to the north and west, town center to the south and east, and the site is outlined in blue above on the screen here. Next. These are a few renderings of the proposed project. The project scope includes several site improvements and exterior facade upgrades to prepare the existing commercial building for the school use. Proposed site improvements include the addition of 2 play structures and 2 outdoor play areas within the existing yard and nursery space on the east and west ends of the project site. The existing parking areas will be restriped and labeled to indicate dedicated staff parking, pickup and drop-off zones for students, and new spaces for electric vehicle charging and accessible parking. The project will also maintain the existing landscape areas around the building, including a 20-foot landscape strip along North Milpitas Boulevard, landscaping along the front or south side of the building, and landscape areas along the southwest, southeast, and northwest corners of the site. Click. And so these renderings here show a closer up view of the project. Some of the architectural modifications are shown here. These will modernize the older existing commercial building. The design includes new windows and doors, metal awnings and siding, and fencing materials to convert the commercial building into an academic setting. The new paint color scheme consists of an off-white color with muted orange accent columns, as seen here on the top of your screen. Next. Here is the proposed floor plan. The scope includes the construction of 20 classrooms, a multi-purpose hall with an attached platform and green room, library, 3 offices, 2 conference rooms, 2 teachers' rooms, 4 offices, a staff break room, various restroom facilities, and an entry lobby. Next, please. So the school will have a maximum enrollment of 480 students, and up to 24 teachers and administrators on site at any given time. The student body consists of preschoolers, pre-kindergartners, and children in grades kindergarten through second. The hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., but the school will primarily be at 100% capacity between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. The school also offers a morning and afternoon extended day program. Morning extended day runs from 7 to 7:45 a.m. and with the afternoon extended day running from 3 to 6 p.m. This program offers outdoor playtime, homework time, organizes arts and crafts projects, and a variety of science, technology, engineering, art, and math activities. Other Stratfor campuses have 7 to 10% of their students enrolled in their morning program, while 60% of students are enrolled in the afternoon program. They anticipate a similar percentage of participants in the program at this proposed campus. Pickup and drop-off activity will always be managed by a security guard. The security guard will monitor the flow of traffic to ensure safety and compliance with the arrival and departure procedures for students. Preschool and pre-kindergarten students must be picked up and dropped off by their parents via the unloading and loading spaces along the main drive aisle in front of the building. Kindergarten through second grade students, for those who are not enrolled in the extended day program, will be picked up and dropped off by their parents via the kindergarten elementary student loading area. And parents will not be able to leave their vehicles unless they're picking up their student from the extended day program. This requires the parent to park and sign out the child before departing, and no queuing will occur during this afternoon time frame. Next slide, please. And so to expand upon what I just explained, so here is the overall circulation plan. Parents of the kindergarten students through second graders will be instructed to enter the site via driveway A off of Beresford Court. They will circle through driveway A via the dedicated stacking lane as shown here until they are directed to pull forward into the loading and unloading area immediately adjacent to the east outdoor play area. The security guard will direct cars forward to exit the school grounds out of driveway C, and the next group of cars will pull forward in the stacking lane. This process will continue until all cars are unloaded. There will be traffic cones placed along driveway C to prevent vehicles from entering the site from North Milpitas Boulevard. For parents of preschool and pre-K, they must be dropped off by their parents. As previously mentioned, those parents will enter off Beresford Court via driveway B and park their cars in the dedicated pickup and drop-off parking spaces and drop off their kids to their respective classrooms. For departures, parents are provided placards with their child's name and room number. Parents will be instructed to place these placards on the visor of their vehicle for easy viewing. School leaders and teachers will be positioned at each loading space to help load children into the appropriate vehicle. Parents will use driveway A off of Beresford Court to pick up their kindergarten through second grade students. There will be a school leader who will use a walkie-talkie to walk around the stacking lane and relay names of students to the waiting area so that students to be picked up are lined up in order and escorted to the right loading space. The security guard will direct the loaded cars forward to exit the school grounds so that the next group of cars can pull forward from the stacking lane. This process will continue until all students have been picked up. And students who are enrolled in the extended day program, as I previously mentioned, they have to be signed out and picked up by their parents. So those parents will access the site via driveway B and park their cars in the dedicated pickup and drop-off parking spaces and must go inside to sign out their child. Next slide, please. And so this table and attachments D, E, and F of the packet outline the sample schedules and arrival departure times for the students. As you can see, the arrival and departure times are staggered for those students not enrolled in the extended day program between 7:45 and 8:45 a.m. and 3 to 3:30 p.m. Click. Click again. So the project is in conformance with the zoning ordinances, parking standards as seen here on this table. The project has more than enough parking spaces for its proposed use, complies with the required bicycle parking, number of compact spaces, as well as the other uses in the adjacent commercial building. Next slide, please. The Milpitas Police Department has also reviewed the project and prescribed several measures to ensure the safety and security of the overall site and its occupants. All are included in the resolution as project conditions of approval. Conditions address such matters as high definition video surveillance, posted exterior site signage to discourage trespassing and loitering, and filing emergency contact information with the police department. Additionally, in response to the police department's recommendations, the applicant proposes to install a new wrought iron fence and gate to enclose the play area along the southeastern side of the project site. Next slide, please. The project CEQA analysis was performed by Impact Sciences on behalf of the city. On the basis of the initial study, Impact Sciences concluded that the project will not have a significant impact on the environment and accordingly have prepared a mitigated negative declaration. The initial study mitigated negative declaration was available for public review from June 23rd through July 26th of this year. 2 comments were received on the environmental document. The comments and responses are included in the final initial study mitigated negative declaration, attachment C in the packet. The applicant will be required to comply with the requirements of the Mitigated Monitoring and Reporting Program, also known as the MMRP, Exhibit 2 to the resolution and attachment A, pursuant to state law. The MMRP lists 1 mitigation measure for this proposed project. And the consultant is here tonight if there are any questions about the environmental document. Next slide, please. Staff provided public notice for the application in accordance with the city and state public noticing requirements. The city published a public hearing notice in the Milpitas Post on July 30th, 2021, and sent notices via mail to 780 residents and owners within 1,000 feet of the project site, and a sign was posted on the project site. As of this evening, staff has received 16 public comments sent to the commissioners as an additional attachment to the packet. Of those 16, 12 comments are in support of the project and 4 are against. Next slide, please. The applicant has done extensive community engagement and outreach during the last year. They sent out 3 neighborhood letters to all residents and businesses within 1,000 feet of the property introducing the project and asked for feedback and suggestions, invited them to virtual open houses. These were sent last November, March, and June of this year. A total of 1,600 letters were mailed over 9 months. They connected with 30 households and businesses that responded to the neighborhood letters, or contacted the city or heard about the project through social media channels. They held 3 virtual community meetings, 1 for the neighborhood, 1 for the Milpitas Concerned Citizens Group, and 1 for the chamber. 20 people attended those meetings. They also built an email list, including nearby households, businesses, retailers, and restaurants in the surrounding shopping center, school parents, and other stakeholders. And these groups received emails providing updates on the application, as well as a community survey soliciting feedback. Next slide, please. Staff has confirmed that the project meets the findings associated with the conditional use permit as set out in the Milpitas Municipal Code. These findings have been discussed in the staff report and are addressed in the resolution. Next slide, please. Staff has confirmed that the project also meets the findings associated with the minor site development permit as set out in the Milpitas Municipal Code. These findings are detailed in the staff report and are addressed in the resolution. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission open and close the public hearing, consider the initial study and mitigated negative declaration in accordance with CEQA, and they adopt Resolution 21-018, approving conditional use permit number UP 20-0005, minor site development permit number MS 20-0089, and environmental assessment number EA 21-0001. Subject to the conditions of approval. This includes a staff summary of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Representatives from Stratford are also here on the call and would like to make a brief presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Hoa. So as you mentioned that the applicant would like to make a presentation, so I'll go ahead and allow that. So, so to the applicant, go ahead and make your presentation.
Great. Commissioners, hi, my name's Sean Morley, and I'll be speaking on behalf of Stratford tonight. I've been managing the application for the school. Let me also introduce Kartik Patel. He's a principal with Archivon, who's Stratford's master architect, if you will, based in Milpitas. And we also have Kelly Woods with us tonight. He's vice president of school operations for Stratford School. We'll be the presentation team, and it's a pleasure to share this wonderful early education campus plan to the commission this evening. We just plan to give a few introductory remarks to supplement staff's detailed report. And first, a big thank you to city staff across the many departments who work very closely with Stratford to bring this project forward, especially Lillian. She's been just amazing, as has everybody through COVID and everything it's brought the last year. We know it hasn't been easy, so thank you. We've got just a couple of slides. I see the deck's up. Maybe we can just go to the first one really quick. Just by way of history, we spoke last November about Stratford's master plan and long-range plan. We have an existing campus in Milpitas at Great Mall Parkway. It's been open since 2016 and has been very successful. In fact, so successful since day one that we've been looking for other opportunities and primarily for a long-term preschool opportunity, which we found in this site. Next slide, please. As you know, we received approvals for a new smaller elementary school on Corning Avenue last fall. We are actually fully under construction and we'll be opening that campus in just a couple weeks. But we're really here tonight to talk primarily about the Beresford Square site. We can go to the next slide. Just in terms of Stratford's plans for the future in Milpitas, Milpitas has been one of Stratford's most engaged and successful communities. We have over 500 families that live in Milpitas today and a tremendous waiting list at all age levels, but really especially at the preschool level. And so that strong demand and opportunity is what really drove us to look for this site. Next slide. I really wanted to talk a little bit more in detail about some of the community engagement efforts that Lillian touched on that we did to supplement staff's good work. Stratford School's deeply committed to being a good neighbor, and we started community outreach in 2020, connecting with residents and businesses in the area, despite COVID limitations of being able to actually knock on people's doors in the early days. I won't cover all of these specifics because Lillian had touched on many of them, but one thing I did want to call out for you just to supplement the community survey that we did that went out to over 1,500 residents in Milpitas. We actually asked for people to give us comments and support. There is an attachment in your staff report that includes a summary of the work that we did in much more detail than just this slide deck. But in addition to the 16 letters that Lillian mentioned, There are, as a list of people who agreed to let us use their name that expressed support for the project, there are 45 city residents in that list, including 15 of our nearby neighbors. And we're pleased to have the support of a number of our fence line neighbors as well. Next slide. Just a little bit about some of our benefits. We'll actually, in addition to the teachers that Lillian mentioned, we'll have a number of other staff people that support the school program, including the preschool, which has 2 professionals in the classes. We'll have over 50 high quality jobs with good wages and salaries. And we're redeveloping, an unused building and revitalization of an existing shopping center. And that really is, I think an important piece of this. We look at this use, which is primarily a preschool, and parents that are getting out of their car and walking in, as creating 450 opportunities twice a day to support Milpitas retail and restaurants in the center and nearby, which have suffered really dramatically during the pandemic. The letter you have in the file from Chappelle Properties, which owns the site and is leasing it to Stratford on a long-term basis, really speaks to that. I hope you've reviewed it. This will result in additional revenue for Milpitas, but most important, we're creating additional education and most important, childcare opportunities for Milpitas residents, which is an important objective for the city's general plan, and I think a real benefit for the project. Next slide. Just in terms of the project schedule, we filed a year ago, and we've been processing it with a comprehensive environmental review and traffic study, which took some time, but had a really good result. We had 3 different submittals with the city staff based on staff and community feedback, each time improving the design. We're really happy where it ended up. We hope you are as well. We anticipate, obviously, the hearing tonight. And if all goes well and we're able to move forward into construction, our plan is to be open in 2022. Next slide. And with that, let me turn it over to Kartik Patel, our architect. He may just have a couple of comments with these slides here to supplement Lillian's presentation, and then we are all available to answer any questions that you might have, either before the public comment, if there is any, or after, however you decide you want to proceed. Thanks very much. Kartik? I think he's here. You're on mute, Kartik.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Started talking before unmuting myself. My apologies. I'm Kartik Patel from Archivon. We are the architects for the project. And I wanted to thank Lillian and the city staff for working with us over the last several months and getting this project to a point where we can come and present to you. She's done a wonderful job, so I won't talk much on the traffic and the parking. All I would say is that one massive improvement we are doing to this building, we'll be bringing the building up to seismic code that is present today. It's a building that was last touched in '85. We will be gutting the entire building on the inside with new LED, sustainable architecture, and sustainable materials. And we feel that this project will have a significant impact on what it looks from outside. We've opened up new windows to bring natural light into the classrooms. And like I said, on the exterior, we're going to really gut the whole building. With that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to field them, and hopefully we can give you more clarity on the project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Morley, does that conclude the presentation?
It does, and we're available to answer questions of the commission now, as well as in response to any comments that the public may have or questions for us. We're happy to proceed as you wish. Okay,
thank you. At this time, do I have any questions from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Ciardella.
I've got some questions for the Stratford people. I want to make sure that in the restrooms, they have the smaller toilets and lower sinks. That's one of the questions. Second question is, in the play area, are there on the floor, are there cushions on there, so if a child falls, he won't get hurt. Those are the questions I have for Stratford, and then I have a couple other questions for fire and police.
Kartik, do you want to respond to the two questions about the design?
We do have kitty toilets for the preschool classrooms for the age group kids that we just talked about. And all play areas have a fall surface that is rated so that no injury would be caused to any child in case they were to fall off the.
Great.
So those are the two questions that I noted that you had clarification on.
Yeah, and you do have the smaller, lower sinks?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And Commissioner Ciardella, we'll come back to your question when, regarding your questions you have for the fire department once we get over to them. So any other questions for any of the, either Ms. Van Hoa or any of the applicant? No questions.
Vice Chair, I had a question.
Yes,
For,
Commissioner Albana. Yes.
the architects, yeah. So since the OSH was built years way back, so speaking about the structure, is it safe enough where if there's a shaking or an earthquake, the children will be safe and the teachers? Has that been addressed?
Yes, it has been. We will be required to seismically upgrade the building because you're changing use. The seismic requirements for a preschool and an elementary school are significant. The safety factor is 1.5 compared to a regular building, which is 1.0. This building will be brought up to the 1.5 seismic code for the schools.
Wonderful, wonderful. I will have also questions for the traffic, but maybe Miss Hua could also assist me in, how distant are other preschools and elementary schools to this site? Are there other preschools close by?
Questions for you, Ms. Van Hoa. Yes.
So I am not, I know there are a number of preschools along Main Street, but I don't think there are any, I guess, what do you define as nearby or close?
Oh, okay. Maybe I should rephrase my question. There may be a couple of small preschools, but I think I'm more concerned on the big ones. Anything that's over 300 or that's 200 close by would be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 miles away.
If I may, Commissioner Albana, I think it's safe to say that within the town center, in this general vicinity, there are no large daycare or preschools in this vicinity. As Ms. Van Hoa noted, there are a number of preschools along Main Street, but it's on the other side of the railroad tracks in a different part of town, really. The nearest school, is a public school, would be Spangler Elementary, which is also further to the west, and then of course to the north we have much further to the north we have the Milpitas High School complex, but those would operate completely separately from this. So there are no large kindergarten or elementary schools in this general vicinity.
Thank you, Planning Director. Thank you, Bill.
Any other questions from any other commissioners? Commissioner Gallon, you had your camera on, so did you have a question?
Yes. Yes, I have a question. I'm in front of me. I have the figure 5 on-site circulation. I saw the driveway A. Okay, I think this is for pre-kindergarten preschool vehicle route and pick up and drop off site in the building. I didn't see. Is it going to be in the rear building or in the main drive? Main school entrance. Where's the drop off?
I believe that question's maybe for the applicant. Did you have a comment, Mr. Morley?
Yes.
Yes. So I didn't catch the exhibit reference, Elaine. Maybe you can pull up the transportation circulation. We have a drop-off location for the kindergarten to second grade, which is on the far eastern side of the site at the point nearest the play area. For kindergarten to second grade, for those classrooms that are driving through and dropping off, as we've indicated, primarily preschool. And so parents who are dropping off at preschool are required to walk their families in, their children in, and drop them off. They will park in front of the building and enter into the building through the entrance that I believe is marked on the site. The students that are being dropped off through the drop-off will proceed into the play area and then into the building.
Okay. And so the parents are required to get out from the car during the drop-off and pickup.
If there's two different categories. We're running almost two different types of schools within the same building. So for preschool, parents are required to park in front of the building and walk their children in, check them in, and then also the same thing in the morning. When they pick them up, they have to come in and check them in. Students in the grade schools, kindergarten through second grade, will be driving through and dropping off. And so in those instances, the parents will be with the assistance of our traffic operations team, assisting the students out of the car and then safely entering the campus. Stratford, by the way, has operates, we have campuses, we've been doing this for 30 years. We've got campuses now 24, almost 25. We've learned over history how to run the operations of traffic arrival and departure, including staggered stop times, stop times as we have for this campus. They're a little bit more elongated here than some of our other campuses. We've also got very long queuing opportunities here and ample parking. So that's broadly, but in terms of the drop-off, since we don't have the exhibit up, have I answered your question?
Yeah, yes. I have another question about security guard. Did the security guard be present during from like 7 to 6 p.m.?
We have a security guard on campus the entire time the school's open, and we don't operate on weekends. We don't operate in the evenings. People do arrive as early as 7 and depart at 6, and we have a security guard available and on site, and then is also primarily responsible along with other administrators for implementing the traffic operations arrival and departure program that Lillian very thoroughly described.
I think, thank you, Vice Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Galong. Does any of the other commissioners have any other further questions for either staff or the applicant? Okay, Commissioner Ciardella.
Yes, I've got a couple of questions for staff. I want to make sure there's some kind of panic hardware on the gate where the play area is. Maybe fire can answer that question.
Okay, so what I can do right now is, so I always specifically want to ask if any questions for either Ms. Van Hoa or the planning staff or the applicant. But if there are no further questions for the planning staff or the applicant, then I can go to the fire staff there. That's Mr. Zamora. So go ahead. With regard to your question, that's fine if you want to have a Deputy Fire Chief Albert Zamora respond to your question, since he has his camera on.
Good evening, Vice Chair and honorable members of the Planning Commission. Planning Commissioner Saradella, you asked a question regards to panic hardware. Under the fire code as well as the building code, anytime we have 50 or more occupants, all exit doors have to open in direction of egress and will require panic hardware, such that if the area has 50 or more occupants, that those doors shall open in the direction of egress and have the appropriate hardware per the code.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Cyril?
It sure did. Thank you very much, Chief. And then the next question I have is for the police department.
All right, I'm going to go through the commissioners.
Okay.
And then I'll so if there's any questions for the fire department. So Commissioner Belong, I see that you took yourself off mute. Did you have any questions?
No, I had just questions to staff or maybe the applicant on the north back side of the building walls. Is there going to be any upgrades or updates to that, to those, I guess, retaining walls?
Kartik?
Yeah, in the back area, wherever we have a couple of loading docks with a retaining wall, those docks would be filled in because they were for delivery. We are not going to have that, and those will be converted to landscape areas.
Might also just add, we're obviously there was another use here before, and as one of our neighbors described it, one of our fence line neighbors, the school is just to use her words, a kinder and gentler use. We have an interface there, and before you had a lot of loud trucks, loading areas, staging areas for equipment, coming in at very odd hours, including evening. And we're, as Kartik said, removing much of those physical improvements, creating school space, and changing the general character of that softer, gentler connection with our neighbors, which I think has been pretty well received.
And then I noticed on the west playground area, there's almost like a line that goes down the middle of the playground area that separates the preschool from the kindergarten area. Is that an added fence, or is that what? That
is an added fence that segregates the preschooler play area to the kindergarten play area.
And what type of fence is that? Is that wrought iron or chain link?
That is a chain link fence.
Got it. That's all I had, Chair. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Belong. Does anybody have any other further questions for the fire department? Okay. If there's no other further questions for the fire department, I just want to thank both Deputy Fire Chief Albert Zamora and Assistant Fire Marshal Jaime Garcia. So if at this time, if you want to, you're welcome to stay at this time. If you want to drop off, you can.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it up, since the next set of questions I knew Commissioner Ciardella had, is I'm going to open it up to Police Captain Frank Morales. So if anyone has, I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Ciardella, since I know you had a question for the police department. So go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. My question is, I know on some projects we've done for preschools along Main Street, we've added shade cloth to the metal fencing. Is that something you guys looked at, since there would be a lot of traffic on Milpitas Boulevard?
Good evening. Thank you for the question. I'll start off by saying thank you, Vice Chair, Commission members, and City staff for inviting me this evening. We did not look at that for this facility. It's a little bit more offset from the roadway, and did not have an opinion for or against adding that to the wrought iron fence.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my question. Hopefully the shrubs will grow up nice and tall. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Ciardella. Does anyone, any other commissioners have any questions for the police department?
I had a quick question, and it just it just came to mind. Are there cameras on the property? And relatively how many?
I believe
there will be security cameras. We don't know how many just yet because we haven't gone that far, but we typically try to capture all the play areas and the parking lot.
Okay. And then for Officer Morales, is there a requirement of how many cameras that should be on site for a project this size?
No, we don't provide an exact number. We just ask that all of the areas, like Mr. Patel indicated, the parking lots, the interior schools, the play areas, so that if an incident were to happen there, we would have access to the information recorded. So as long as they have a good area of coverage, there's no significant gaps in that, that would be satisfactory for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Belong. Does any other commissioners have any questions for Police Department? Okay, if there's no further questions for the Police Department, thank you, Captain Morales. Appreciate your time. You're welcome to stay, but if you need to go, you're welcome to go.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple other folks on the city staff here. I know there might be some questions around transportation, so I'm going to open it up to Steve Chan. So if anyone has any questions for Steve Chan in regards to traffic. Okay, if there's no questions for Steve Chan, then yeah, I don't know if Steve, Mr. Chan, if you have any comments or anything. If not, then you're welcome to stay, or you can go.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Vice Chair, if I may.
Yes.
We may have questions, or we may have comments during public comment that we may need some of the staff to stay for those questions, particularly around traffic. I'm aware of some community concerns in that regard.
Okay. All right. Thank you for bringing that up, Planning Director. So I'm going to go ahead and keep Mr. Chan here then. Apologies.
Sorry, Steve.
No problem.
And then I also see Alex Andrade as well. I don't know if Alex, Mr. Andrade, if you have any comments.
Good evening, Vice Chair Chuan and Planning Commissioners. Alex Andrade, your Director of Economic Development. I certainly do have comments, and they are frankly in support of the project. And if you have a couple minutes, I'm happy to share. Let me know. Great. Well, I'll start by saying that, of course, the Osh brand there, located across the street, was very successful for many years. And the brand, I think we all, being from the Bay Area, we've all been to Osh stores in the past, but things unfortunately changed after the 2000s. And many of you are likely aware that they were owned by Sears for a portion of time, and then Lowe's most recently. But the fact remains that the business was just a depreciating asset, and really one of the main reasons why they closed the entire stores of over 20, I believe. And while I was anticipating a question related to sales tax, I can't say a whole lot because sales tax revenues are considered confidential. But what I can confidently say is that previous sales tax revenues from that particular location and that retailer were just really not substantial at all. I started with the city as the director about 2.5 years ago, actually December of 2018, and in November of 2018 is when Osh closed. So that location has been closed and vacant for many years. So I would say that we should remember that while retail is not dead, retail is just evolving and changing. And we have seen that COVID-19 has just exacerbated the e-commerce and really affecting local retailers, not just locally, but obviously nationally. So there's been lots of changes as it relates to retail as a whole. And I would add too that, shopping centers are starting to see uncommon anchors or non-traditional anchors, where right now food is very popular as an anchor. You're starting to see fitness centers, hotels, family entertainment uses at commercial centers. And just to bring it closer to home, two real good examples of one being Saber Store, which the Planning Commission approved to become an event center. They're located off of Dempsey. That location and building was vacant for many years. So allowing other uses to come in just certainly invigorates that particular area. And one very recent example and a very successful one is Legoland Discovery Center, which has taken space, as you all know, at Great Mall. They're doing incredibly well. And those are just examples of new uses that we're starting to see in commercial areas. So the other thing I would add is that Chappelle, as the property owner, has been marketing this site for years and hasn't really had a true potential investor or tenant until now. So I'm of the belief, and in my professional opinion as an economic development professional, that this use as a school will actually have a multiplier effect. You've heard Mr. Morley talk about an estimated 450 families that will be visiting Beresford North twice a day. So for me, I feel like that's almost a built-in new customer base. And I believe our businesses located in that area will definitely appreciate that new infusion of customer base. So I think that's what I'm gonna end it. That's where I'll end it. I do have other thoughts perhaps, but if anybody has any questions, I am happy to assist.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andrade. Does any have any questions for Mr. Andrade? Okay. Mr. Andrade, I'm going to keep you here for now. At this time, if there's no further questions for either planning staff or the applicant, I'm going to open up the public forum. So in regards to the public forum, speakers, please provide your name and city of residence for the recording secretary's record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. So it's time. I'm going to open it up. Ms. Medina, do we have any public comment?
Yes. So also, Vice Chair, we also received a comment in the chat, and she's Superintendent Cheryl Jordan is also in the queue for public comment.
Okay, great.
So right now we have two people, two community members in the queue for public comment, and we'll start with Miss Cheryl Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Medina. Thank you, Superintendent Jordan. At this time, you have 3 minutes. I'm going to open the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Schwan, Vice Chair. I just have two questions. I think that would be helpful for myself as I look at planning for the future with Milpitas Unified School District, as well as some of our community members. And the two questions I have is, one, what is the cost of tuition per year for primary grades? And then I understand in general for private schools that tuition increases with older children. The second is, what data do you have on where your students reside in relation to the location of your schools? And from where do you expect to draw students for the Beresford location?
Okay, thank you. Is that it, Superintendent?
Yes,
okay, thank you, Superintendent Jordan. As we're still on the public comment, the next I see is Ms. Medina. Do we have another public comment?
Yes, Vice Chair Chuan, we have Miss Barbara Navarro.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Navarro, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm just concerned about the allocation for the teachers' parking and the spaces, because I noticed many of the spaces are on the west side of the first row, and that is where the businesses are. And I use that facility a lot. And I know that the bank is open at 9, and I'm not sure what the designated locations for the teachers are, but I would highly recommend that they park away from those businesses because they are used during the lunchtime. And I'm there a lot, and there are a lot of cars in the front end of the parking. So my request would be to relocate the teachers' parking so that it's further east in that first row. And I heard that there were 24 teachers that will be on site. So I would highly recommend designating parking locations for those teachers away from those businesses. That's my recommendation, and I would hope that you would look into that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Ms. Medina, do we have any other public comment?
Yes, I was notified via chat. Mr. and Mrs. Jason Manuel is in the queue to speak.
Okay. Mr. Manuel, Mr. and Mrs. Manuel, you have 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Jason Manuel. I live in South Able Street on Milpitas. I have 2 daughters aged 12 and 10, and they attend the Stratfor School campus in Great Mall Parkway. And based on my experience there, I would like to say that this is a very good school. Like, we moved to Milpitas 12 years ago, and my first daughter was born 7 months after we moved here. I mean, she was 7 months old when we moved here, and the next daughter was born 2 years later. They went to an excellent school named Monarch Christian School here in Milpitas, at the other end, east end of Calaveras Boulevard, for the first 7 years of their school life. And after that, as they outgrew that school, we evaluated our options, and we found that the Stratfor School program was good. And so we moved one of our daughters there, and she got an excellent school teacher in the first year. And based on that, moving our second daughter there was a no-brainer. So, and then last year, the COVID pandemic struck. In the middle of the school year, they quickly scrambled to put together an online program. And then in the following year, they put together a hybrid and on-campus program. So based on all this, I can vouch that this is a good school. It is not cheap, but we believe it's a good investment in our children's future. And so based on our experience, when they start this new campus for the preschool and the kindergartners and the lower grades, we feel it's a valuable addition to the list of options available to residents of Milpitas, especially people living just north, the residential neighborhood just north of the campus. And they have access to this school campus via Milpitas Boulevard. And therefore, it's possible that they can access this campus without adding too much to the traffic on Calaveras Boulevard. And obviously, it's a boon for the businesses in that shopping complex, for the parents who drop off and pick them up. And so, considering all this, I would like the commission to, rule favorably and approve this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manuel. Ms. Medina, any other further public comment?
Vice Chair, I do not see any other members of the public in the queue for public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Commissioners, at this time, can I have a motion to close the public hearing? I mean, yeah, close the public forum.
Provide feedback before you close the public hearing on the comments that were, or would you like us to do that after you close the public hearing?
We can do that after I close the public.
I'm going to make a motion to close.
Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioner Alcorn, I would suggest prior to closing the public hearing, we do the, any clarifications or questions to the applicant regarding the public's comments, and then we can close the public hearing.
Thank you, City Attorney. Okay, Mr. Morley, if you'd like to address the.
Thanks. I think a couple of them were addressed to us too, and it might be a little bit more easy for me to provide a couple of the responses. First, to Mr. Manuel, thank you very much for the comments of support. We appreciate it. I would just say that there were a number of letters in the file for neighbors that live right behind us that are supportive of the project. And one of the reasons is they have small children and they actually want to be able to join us and walk their kids to school, which is just great. To Barbara Navarro's comment about the teacher parking, I'm sure staff may have some comments on that, but just a little bit of background. And Kartik, if you think you need to clarify after I'm done, please feel free. But we spent a lot of time looking at not only with the property owner whose job it is to make sure with all of the retailers that they meet all of their parking needs and requirements, but also to provide parking that works for everybody. We spent a lot of time looking at that, and the reason the teacher parking was identified where it was obviously closest to our site where parents won't be parking, and we have parents parking at the front of the building to ensure the safety of the children. But also, generally speaking, that was the parking that was utilized for the prior use and would be anyway for this building. And it's also along the major drive aisle. So we were trying to leave the center parking area that most fronts the retail building available for that. And it was, a very particularized arrangement between us and in discussions with the traffic operations staff for the safety of everyone walking into the site, as well as our friends at Chappelle. And so the applicant at least would not be in favor of looking at relocating the parking. That would be a very complicated exercise, and one I think that won't serve the interest of the school, but more important, won't serve the interest of the retail uses. With respect to Superintendent George's comments, thank you very much. It is very good to see you again this evening. For the group's benefit, we did meet last September to review Stratford's long-range plans in Milpitas and for this early education campus. Just to provide a couple of comments on your specific items, we will have 4 classrooms for first and second grade. As we said, it's primarily a preschool, and that'll total about 88 students. Historically, about 50% of our students have come from other communities. So only half of those students will be in all likelihood Milpitas residents. We haven't obviously, advertised for this site yet, but we've got pretty good data for experience in Milpitas, and we would expect the same pattern to occur here, which is fairly consistent with some of our other community schools as well. We, find that historically, many of our students in the early elementary schools do progress to public schools in their home community. However, many also decide from the beginning to choose the private school route. We believe Stratford complements the public schools in the community, especially Milpitas that has such great public schools. And this is primarily a preschool, which is going to be enhancing the city's childcare and early education opportunities. That's a major priority of the general plan, and also just something that's not in the district's primary mission for those preschool grades. As far as the question about, why Milpitas, in general, from our parent community, our accreditation data that we see, a majority of the families are bachelor degree educated or beyond, and professional career represented, in Silicon Valley in the high tech industry, engineering, medical field. But our community is very reflective of the Milpitas community. There's an incredibly high demand in the area, and we saw rapid success at the Great Mall with the demand beyond what we could accommodate, which is why we've looked at this larger master plan. I think that responds to the 3 comments we heard. Kartik, unless you think we have anything else on parking, I think that's it for us.
I think just a couple of things. One is there was a question as to how many teacher spots. We have 44. And
thank you.
For staff, and they're located on the east and south side of the building for the traffic reasons, because we didn't want preschool parents dropping their children and they're crossing traffic. So that's why they're located where they are.
And I'm sorry, there was one more question about our tuition rates. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. We have a range of tuition for elementary and then middle school, although middle school is not a level that we're planning to provide, obviously, on this campus. And those tuitions run from about $19,000 to $22,000, which is, fairly consistent with our other campuses as well. I might just add in closing too, that we would, appreciate the commission's time. Thank you very much. If there are other questions you'd like us to answer, we're obviously happy to do that. But otherwise, we would respectfully request that you approve the project with the recommendations that staff has put to you. And we thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Morley. So at this time, may I ask one of the planning commissioners to close the public forum?
I move to close the public forum.
May I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Alcorn and a second from Commissioner Belong. So I will now go down to the roll call vote. Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Commissioner Galong.
Aye.
Commissioner Ciardella.
Aye.
Commissioner Belong.
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Aye.
Vice Chair is aye. The public forum is now closed. Okay, so do I have any further questions from any of the commissioners or any comments either for staff or the applicant or anyone else still here?
Vice Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Albana.
Yes, thank you. Definitely, I am concerned, and maybe I would like to ask so it could reinforce some confidence and help us also lean towards, approving this. Is the traffic safety, the impact it has, because I've noticed from the stoplight, from the corner of where the City Hall is, that's what Calaveras and Milpitas Boulevard, it's just basically like how many yards to this school where the cars would have to be, turning towards the school to drop off the kids. And that usually is a bottleneck there. Another bottleneck, happens in the other corner by, what was that other side by Maryland or something? What does the traffic say? I mean, what was there? Is there any significant requirements they did so that it can ease the traffic in that corner, towards the parents dropping off and then getting out? I guess that would be for Mr. Steve Chan, huh?
Mr. Chan, you have any comments or responses for Commissioner Albana?
Yes, Ms. Albana. So we worked with the applicant in terms of their circulation plan extensively on how parents drop off and pick up their children. So one key point of concern was on Milpitas Boulevard. As you seen on the site circulation plan, there is a driveway right next to the school building. That building with their proposed operation is strictly a outbound traffic movement, so that parents won't be lining up on Milpitas Boulevard to get into the site. So the operation now is strictly all parents drop off their children to Beresford Court. They turn off Milpitas Boulevard, come onto a minor's side street to enter the site, and they have plenty of queuing around the parking lot as well as around the school building to get to the drop-off zone. So it's not anticipated that there's going to be traffic backing up onto public street. And again, when parents finish dropping off their children off the drop-off zone coming out of Milpitas Boulevard, they just merge back right out onto Milpitas Boulevard. So we work with the applicant also to stagger their drop-off schedule to alleviate some of the traffic congestion concern around this area. So traffic will be more intense as a result of the school, but they are less impactful than when originally proposed when the stagger hours was not included.
Commissioner Albana, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. So the staggered strategy would help ease the flow.
Correct.
I see. Because that's quite a number of students being dropped off. That will have an impact also, on the flow of traffic. That was all I was concerned about, is really the traffic. Otherwise, this institutional use as an advantage to the city having that school is good, but I feel it's just the traffic that we have to watch it, because everybody wants to go to work, in and out of their homes at the shortest possible time. Everybody's in a hurry, and we also want the safety of the children, that nobody's rushing in, and and we want to provide also the ease of traffic in that area. So I appreciate whatever studies you've had, and make sure that it will not congest in that corner intersection closest to Milpitas Boulevard and Calaveras. And that's all. That was one of my concerns. Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Steve Chen.
Thank you, Commissioner Albana. Thank you, Mr. Chan. Do you have any other questions from any other commissioners?
I sure have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Galan.
Yeah, I have concern about the kindergarten elementary student loading area in east of the near east of the building. You can see, it's like 10 feet away from the Milpitas Boulevard. Why don't you put that loading area on the other side of the building, on the west side, instead of the east side?
So I think the applicant will speak to this also, but the location of the drop-off zone allows maximum queuing on site so that vehicle traffic does not back up on the public street. And Sean could possibly speak to the operation of the drop-off near Milpitas Boulevard and how that's managed.
Yeah, let me just make a broad comment, which is, you've got a little bit of a berm there. It's been fully reviewed by the public safety folks to ensure that there isn't a safety issue there. As Steve said, that we do have, it creates for maximum stacking options to avoid any of, traffic backups, which is ideal. It's also very consistent. We want students to be able to unload on the passenger side of the car for safety, and then also unload to get out of the car in a place as close to where they can enter the campus as possible. And so we're right into a play area there, and then into, just as you would at any other school. And so we thought that was the best location, rather than trying to, at least for drop off, move into other locations. Kartik, any additional comment on that?
Is there any way you can put a fence on the yellow shaded area? This is the way kids can't.
Is there a way we can make that exhibit? I just want to make sure that we're all clear about what we're talking about. But Kartik, did you
what
where he's referencing?
Yeah, I think you touched on the concerns that we would have. Is obviously you want passengers loading, unloading on the right side, and by locating the drop off and pickup where we have for the elementary school, you get tremendous amount of on-site stacking, which is what is works very well with the staggered time, so that you address the traffic issue.
And so, the fencing issue you mentioned, we don't have an ability to put a fence in front of the car. Their children are protected by the car, and then they're exiting out to the site very close to the actual play area that is fenced in.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair.
Oh, Vice Chair, 2 additional comments, if I may.
Yes, Planning Director.
Thank you. Just by way of clarification, Mr. Morley mentioned that there is a berm. On the plans, you'll see it's a 20-foot setback from Milpitas Boulevard, so a very substantial setback, fully landscaped, mature landscape even. And so that provides a very nice buffer from the roadway to the pickup and drop-off area. I'd also like to note that in addition to car pickups, the school does anticipate having some foot traffic in and out of the school, and it happens that the sidewalk from Milpitas Boulevard into the school crosses the driveway drive aisle here. So it's often a safety feature at fast food restaurants, but the same principle applies here, that if you have the pickup and drop off area, the cars are actually stopped, and it makes it safer for pedestrians to cross that drive aisle at that particular location next to the pickup and drop off where the cars are stopping rather than traveling through.
And Mr. Thomas, I might just add too that just to make clear from an operational standpoint, we have, as cars come up, children are not allowed to get out of the cars by themselves. They are greeted by a teacher, and we have one-to-one support for each child that's getting out of the car.
And one more thing I may add, when that function happens for pickup drop off, the security guard is there. And that's another safety feature that is built in here, because we anticipate that the security guard would manage the coning of that area. And any pedestrians that come from North Milpitas Boulevard and enter directly into the play area to the building, you would have a security guard along with the teachers there to monitor that.
You're saying that, so you have only one security guard to monitor the drop-off?
We actually have a security guard on campus. We also utilize administrators who are specifically designated to run the traffic operations program as a job function. So we have a number of places where people will be stationed and to facilitate this overall traffic operation, which we've very successfully implemented in not only in Milpitas, but many other communities for many years. I would just point out too that the parking area in the yellow is for staff parking. They will have already arrived. So you've got a berm, parked cars. There is a significant buffer from the road there. And we wouldn't be able to put a fence in though, largely too, just because we would be blocking parking.
And thank you, Vice Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Galan. Any other questions from any other commissioners? No questions from any other commissioners? Any other comments or anything?
Vice Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Alcorn.
Okay, so first off, I want to thank staff and everyone involved for a very comprehensive report, and staff report here. It's very good. Thank the commissioners. We had a lot of good questions. We also had a lot of questions that could have been answered by reading the staff report. So just remember to always read that and respect everyone else's time. That'd be good. I want to commend Stratford for being not just helpful with getting all the information out, but very transparent. And those of you who met with them probably can agree with that. They're very open about any questions that we have, so that's good. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make a motion now. And feel free before we do the vote, if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to insert them in, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to adopt resolution number 21-018, approving conditional use permit number UP 20-0005, minor site development permit number MS 20-0089, and environmental assessment number EA 21-0001, subject to the findings and conditions of approval. My cat had to jump on my desk right at that moment. But yes, so that is my motion.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Alcorn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Alcorn and a second from Commissioner Belong. I will now do a roll call vote. So Commissioner Albana.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Galan.
Vice Chair, before my vote, can I have a question to the applicant, or is it too late?
Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, about the medical emergency kit. They required to have that in the building?
Absolutely. Yeah. We're required, we're under very strict regulations with respect to preschools for medical care, but we equally apply it to the elementary schools as well.
Are your staff or, fit to,
We have trained staff to provide, to respond,
yes,
like in any other campus, for
yes,
medical concerns, and we very successfully operated, without major incident at the Great Mall campus for many, many years.
is your staff required as a CPR?
That is a good question.
I
can handle that.
Yeah, we're going to have Kelly Woods, our Vice President of Business Operations, who's responsible for all of the school operations, answer.
Sure, thank you. And thank you to the commissioners. So the answer to that question is yes, we actually, as an organization, provide CPR and first aid training to our staff. It is required for our from a licensing requirement through Community Care Licensing Division for all of our preschool staff, all of our school administrative staff, our office administrators. It's required for even our extended day teachers who are going to be opening the school early at 7 a.m. or staying as to close the school at 6 p.m. We offer it for our elementary staff as well. So on any given site, the majority of the staff are CPR and first aid trained and do this annually to keep up their certification.
Included the security guard, correct?
Correct.
All right. Commissioner Galong, I'm going to have to ask for your vote if you don't mind.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ciardella.
I'd say yes, but I want to make sure Tim's cat's okay, since he threw him across his shoulder there.
I placed him on my bed, which is right behind me.
Right.
So Commissioner Ciardella, your vote is a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Belong.
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Aye.
Okay. Vice Chair is aye. So you have 6-0 vote. Motion passes. I just want to congratulate Stratford Schools. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of the attention and support, and we look forward to opening the school and sharing our new opening with all of you in an environment where we're not dealing with COVID, I hope, a year from now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So that one is closed. So next item is new business. We have no items. I don't know if you have any comments, Planning Director.
No additional comments. Thank you, everyone, for your participation tonight. We appreciate the questions.
Okay, thank you. And right now I'll read the what Chair Tal always calls the legalese. So anyways, any person aggrieved by any final decision of any board, commission, or department head to the city of Milpitas may appeal the decision to the city council by filing written notice of the appeal with the city clerk within 12 calendar days of the date of said decision and paying the required fee. This time limit shall be strictly enforced. At this time, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to adjourn the meeting from Commissioner Ciardella and a second from Commissioner Galong. And just a quick roll call vote. Commissioner Albano?
Aye.
Commissioner Galong?
Aye.
Commissioner Ciardella?
Aye.
Commissioner Belong?
Aye.
Commissioner Alcorn?
Aye.
Vice Chair is aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you, staff. Thank you to the applicant and all the participants. Meeting's concluded. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay. Nice job,
Good
Vice
night.
Chair.
Thank you.
Good job, Vice Chair.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Glom. Have a good evening.
Good night.